In the history of boxing, there have been many examples of unfair robberies of boxers. Even boxing legends are often brazenly robbed, and this has not stopped until now. But not all of the fights cause as much emotion and outrage as the fight between Nikolai Valuev and Evander Holyfield. This fight is remembered not only for its spectacle and intrigue, but also for the absurd, brazen decision that cost Holyfield the chance to defeat George Foreman's unthinkable record. After all, that evening he was not only in amazing shape, but also lost the chance to become the new oldest champion at 46, but also to retire in the category of immortal legends. To understand the scale of the fiasco of this battle, I propose to remember how it all began. Nikolai Valuev, nicknamed the Russian Giant, has never been a legendary boxer. Nikolai won his fights due to his natural abilities and impenetrable head. Throughout his career, the Russian boxer fought against noticeably weaker opponents to entertain the audience, and only when he approached around 40 victories did he start facing top-level opponents. They tried to turn Nikolai into a superstar, so they selected convenient opponents for him, and as it turned out, even their own judges. That's why a year before the Americans' robbery, Nikolai had a record of 46-0, with 36 victories by knockout. However, later Nikolai lost the title in a close fight to his compatriot Ruslan Chagayev. But then he made a comeback in the title race and reclaimed the champion's accolades. The second time he defeated John Ruiz by unanimous decision, the same Ruiz who beat and was beaten by Holyfield and devastating loss to Roy Jones Jr. The return of the title was a great reason to call the year successful, but Valuev's promoter Wilfried Sauerland wanted a big name on Nikolai's track record. Valuev was in the final stages of his sports career, but he had a WBA title available. Wilfried decided to sell the inevitable defeat of his champion at a higher price. He dreamed of a fight between Nikolai and David Haye. But before the box office event, the Russian should have carried out a voluntary defense. Sauerland's choice surprised everyone except the WBA. 42-year-old Evander Holyfield has returned from oblivion. The American boxing legend and part-time really cool world champion Holyfield does not need a special introduction. The Alabama star became an absolute cruiserweight in just 18 fights, but realizing that all attention is focused only on heavyweights, Holyfield decides to break into the royal weight and face off against Mike Tyson himself, who single-handedly ruled without any hint of failure. But Mike was put behind bars at the wrong time, and we will see this epic fight only in their not-the-best years.
Listen. Mike didn't have it in the first fight.
Nevertheless, by the 25th fight, Evander becomes the absolute champion by defeating Buster Douglas, who recently shocked everyone with a victory over Mike Tyson. In subsequent years, the great champion defeated such boxers as George Foreman, Larry Holmes, Riddick Bowe, Mike Tyson, Michael Moorer, John Ruiz, and others. However, for such a long journey, having gone through so many wars, Holyfield picked up defeats, of which there were 9 at the time of the battle with Valuev. In any case, with a multitude of accomplishments under his belt, Evander aimed to conclude his career with a grand finale, leaving his name in the history of boxing and retiring as an immortal legend. The Valuev team was aware of the risks they were taking. On the one hand, the victory over the pensioner did not give them any regalia. On the other hand, Holyfield's name on the track record would have lifted Nikolai's shares up. In addition, the age of the former champion reduced his former danger to a minimum. Evander himself understood that this was his last chance, the perfect moment to fire all the guns that still had gunpowder. The favorite of the fight was Valuev. Everything spoke in his favor. Holyfield in December 2008 was already over 46 years old, while Valuev was only 35. In addition, there were dimensions on the side of the Petersburger. The champion had a 9.84-inch height advantage over the contender, and the weigh-in before the fight revealed that he outweighed Evander by a staggering 96 pounds. However, experts were not quick to write off the American, as Holyfield had 2 records on his account, being the first 5-time world champion in the heavyweight category and becoming the oldest champion in boxing, while Valuev held only 1 title. Nevertheless, this did not in the least diminish the resolve of the American, who dreamed of breaking the record of the legendary George Foreman and becoming the oldest world champion in heavyweight history at 46 years old. It became clear that for the Russian giant this fight would not seem like an easy walk in the park. The events at the start of the bout showed that Holyfield's aspirations were backed up by his actions. Valuev attempted to move forward and press his opponent, but Evander demonstrated brilliant footwork. The American moved around the ring as if he were 26 years old, not 46. Constant maneuvering and elusive movements became a significant challenge for Nikolai. Soon, Holyfield started landing punches. In the second round, a combination of a left to the body and a right from the side stood out, with the final punch landing with exquisite precision. Holyfield's lateral movements became an unsolvable problem for Valuev. The commentators of that bout could only state that Nikolai would lose his title in such a manner. In a very passive third round, Holyfield once again looked better. He didn't throw punches too often, but distributed his energy skillfully and didn't waste it unnecessarily. In this segment, he delivered another powerful right from the side to his opponent's jaw. Meanwhile, the Russian appeared somewhat clumsy compared to his technical opponent. In the next sequence, the American broke through to close range and once again pierced Nikolai's defense with a left hook. The crowd rejoiced and chanted Holyfield. Meanwhile, Valuev threw jabs that mostly landed on his opponent's chest area and rarely reached Evander's head. The entire fight unfolded in a similar manner as Valuev attempted to press and land his jabs. While Holyfield worked at a measured pace, not overly active but incredibly precise. It was evident how superior he was to his opponent in terms of technique.
обидва скупі на атаки. Але якщо і викидають, то Олександру Зімін, можливо, і втома дається в знаки, тому що навіть так дуже важко нокаутувати росіян. Нарешті це зрозумів. Росія зробив так, що непогана серія. Після джеба одразу ці моменти у росіянина. Ну а ось ці атаки знову декілька лівих бокових. Для вибухових атак.
The true old-school boxing of the 90s simply outclassed Nikolai, who couldn't come up with any antidote.
Дуже повільно поводиться Валуєв. Боксу не потрібні перемоги, які витягують за вуха. Тому що робить больно, як ніколи. Все, поєдинок закінчено. Чекаємо на...
However, opinions were divided among the judges at the end of the bout. By the majority decision, they awarded the victory to Valuev 116:112, 115:114, 114:114. The first score announced was a draw, which was met with booing and uproar from the audience. When Nikolai was declared the winner, the fans were outraged. At that moment, one could only wonder how satisfying it must have been for Nikolai to defend his title in such a manner, witnessing the blatant robbery of a 46-year-old veteran who managed to put up such a fight at his age. What supports the argument that the judges favored Valuev? The statistics and numbers, and as we know, they are stubborn things. Throughout the fight, Evander threw 189 punches, with 92 landing successfully. The accuracy percentage was simply incredible at 49%, once again highlighting the precise and skillful work of Holyfield. Out of his accurate punches, 62 of them were power shots. Valuev, on the other hand, threw 421 punches during the bout, with 128 landing accurately, 30% accuracy. The majority of his punches and accurate hits came from jabs, which posed little threat to Holyfield. Nikolai only managed 47 accurate power shots. Therefore, the conclusions can be drawn independently. And it's worth mentioning a very accurate statement from renowned American commentator Dan Raphael. The number of arguments in favor of Holyfield winning all 12 rounds is greater than the evidence suggesting that Valuev won at least 7, concluded the expert. The relentless Holyfield, who displayed excellent boxing skills, immediately began demanding a rematch. Official authorities announced the start of an investigation into the outcome of the fight, but neither a rematch nor any disciplinary sanctions against the judges followed. Undeterred, Evander went on to have 3 more bouts. One of them was declared a no contest due to a cut suffered by Holyfield. However, he knocked out Francis Botha and Brian Nielsen. Afterward, he still hoped for a title fight and even timidly mentioned the possibility of facing one of the Klitschko brothers. But the Ukrainians understood that both victory and defeat against the aging boxing legend would diminish their own standing, so they refused to negotiate with Holyfield. Overall, there were no willing contenders to force Holyfield into retirement by force, and he had to end his career in this manner. As for Valuev, after his victory over Holyfield, Nikolai had only one more professional fight. In November 2009, he lost his title to British boxer David Haye, after which he retired. The victory of Russian heavyweight Nikolai Valuev over the legend Evander Holyfield took the 8th place in the ranking of the top 10 most controversial referee decisions in professional boxing in the last 10 years.